There are no new battles, only new names for old wars. The mind trembles before hardship, but the soul remembers. It remembers the fire of those who came before, men who walked through storms not to escape the rain, but to become the sky. We call it ancient wisdom. But what is ancient to time is timeless to the soul. A man in Rome, draped in the weight of empire, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." 2,000 years later, we still forget. We wake up drowning in noise, chasing shadows on glowing screens, measuring our worth by likes, our peace by distraction, our freedom by things that own us. We call it modern life, but it is only new skin on old confusion. So we return, not to escape the world, but to learn how to stand in it without being broken by it. There are truths that don't age, only people who forget them. The first, control is an illusion. You may command legions, build fortunes, shape nations, but the rain will still fall. The body will still decay and death will still come. What matters is not what happens, but what you do with it. A man who curses the storm has already lost to it, but one who walks through it with eyes steady and soul anchored, he is unshakable. Second, you are not your emotions. Feelings rise like wind, but you are the mountain. Let the fear come. Let the doubt whisper, but stand, hold, observe, and act not from impulse, but from clarity. They taught this in the marketplaces of Athens, in the halls of Roman generals, in the silence of those who survived what others couldn't bear. Third, pain is not your enemy. Comfort is. The body grows. Through resistance, so does the soul. If you never face hardship, you never meet yourself. The man who chooses ease chooses weakness, but the man who rises when his knees buckle, who takes one more breath when the night says, stop, that man becomes iron. Fourth, speak little, act much. Words are smoke, action is flame. The Stoics didn't preach virtue, they lived it. They rose before the sun, worked in silence, fought battles inside their own minds before judging the world. Talk less, move more. Let your life explain itself. Fifth, time is your only wealth. Not gold, not titles, not the applause of fools. Time. Each minute you waste in resentment, in distraction, in things that do not make you stronger, is theft. A man guarding his time is like a soldier guarding the last stronghold, because once it's gone, you don't get it back. Sixth, no one can harm you more than your own thoughts. Insults don't wound until you believe them. Failure doesn't kill until you call yourself a failure. The world is full of noise, but suffering is mostly self-made. If your mind is disciplined, the world loses its power over you. Seventh, you are going to die. Say it, not as fear but as freedom. Death is not the enemy, it is the compass. When you live with death at your side, you waste less, you chase less, you live more. The Roman generals would whisper to themselves, memento mori. Remember, you must die, not to despair, but to awaken. Eighth, virtue is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. Not wealth, not health, not even love. Everything can be stripped from you. But virtue, your courage, your honesty, your discipline, only you can give that away. And if you hold on to it even naked and alone, you remain whole. Ninth, what you tolerate, you become. Each time you excuse weakness, it multiplies. Each time you let yourself lie, you rewrite your character. Discipline is not cruelty. It is self-respect. You become what you permit. 10th, you are not alone in your suffering. Every man has a burden. Some wear it loud, some carry it in silence, but no one walks untouched. Remember this, and compassion will come. Not weakness, but understanding. To judge less, to love more wisely, to see in others the same battle you fight within. 11th, the obstacle is the path, not beside it, not beyond it, right through it. The hardship you hate is the lesson you need. The rejection, the failure, the betrayal. It's the crucible, the fire that purifies, the mirror that shows you who you are and who you still can become. So don't pray for an easy road, pray for a stronger spine. Don't ask the world to soften, ask your soul to sharpen. What do you think greatness feels like? A crowd's cheer? A moment of glory frozen in time? No. Greatness feels like silence, like sacrifice no one sees, like walking through pain without needing to explain it. It feels like rising at dawn when your body aches. It feels like holding your tongue when your ego screams. It feels like doing what is right, even when no one will ever know. That is the truth the ancients knew. That virtue is a lonely road, but not a bitter one. Because when you walk it, you are not alone. You walk with the dead, with the wise, with every man who ever refused to kneel to his weakness, and you become one of them. Let them mock your discipline. Let them scoff at your simplicity. What they call boring is what keeps your soul clean. What they call strict is what makes you free. Because if you are not your own master, then you are someone else's slave. This is the iron law of nature. You will suffer. The only question is, for what? Will you suffer for growth? Or for comfort that rots you from within? Will you endure the fire to forge yourself? Or will you crumble every time life turns cold? The choice is yours. It always has been. You think you're tired because of the weight of the world, but most of your exhaustion comes from resisting your own strength, from pretending you are weak, from lying to yourself just to feel safe. Drop the act, burn the excuses. Face the mirror like a soldier and ask yourself, what am I building with my life? Because every day you either shape a fortress or dig your own grave. There is no pause, no neutral ground. Time does not wait for your clarity, and the clock is always bleeding. You want peace? Then earn it. Peace is not given. It is won in the battlefield of self. It comes when you no longer seek to control others, but command yourself. When you stop craving what they have and start crafting who you are. It is the stillness that follows the storm, when you've looked chaos in the eye and chosen not to flinch. Remember, discomfort is the signal. Resistance is the path. Discipline is the gate. And virtue is the only crown that doesn't rust. Do not chase approval. That crown turns to ash. Do not chase pleasure. It leaves you hollow. But chase character. And even in ruin you will not be broken. This is the power the ancients knew. The power of stillness in motion, of fire under control, of a man unmoved, even as the world shakes. Do not confuse that with indifference. The Stoics did not feel less, they felt more, but were not ruled by it. Pain came. They bowed their heads, then kept walking. Love came. They cherished it, then released it. Loss came. They grieved, but did not collapse. Because they knew everything borrowed will be returned. Everything given will be taken, so grip nothing too tightly. Not even yourself. You will change. Let it be upwards. Let each scar become scripture. Let each failure become a forge. Let your suffering carve statues out of your soul. This is the hidden gift of hardship. It destroys the illusion so you can rebuild the truth. And the truth is this: you are stronger than comfort. You are wiser than chaos. You are deeper than your moods. But you must prove it. Not once. Not sometimes. Every day. In silence. In pain. In patience. In the quiet hours when no one is watching. In the loud moments when everyone is judging. In all of it. That's where the work lives. That's where the Stoic walks. Do not mistake movement for meaning. A man may run all his life and still arrive nowhere. Noise is not progress. Speed is not depth. And motion without virtue is chaos in disguise. That's why the ancients trained themselves not in shouting, but in silence. Not in comfort, but in cold. Not in applause, but in solitude. Because silence is where the blade is sharpened. The modern world fears silence. It fills every second with distraction. It floods the soul with noise until we forget the sound of our own thoughts, but you must not fear it. Enter the silence. Let it strip you. Let it expose what is weak. Let it burn off the parts of you that were never truly yours. Because when all the noise is gone, what remains is what you really are. And if what remains is soft, then build. If what remains is bitter, then purge. If what remains is strong, then guard it with your life. A warrior does not fear stillness. He prepares in it. He prays in it. He waits, calm as a mountain while the world trembles like leaves. The Stoic path is not glamorous. It is not loud. It is not made for crowds. It is made for men who no longer wish to be ruled by the winds of fortune or the moods of other men. It is for those who understand. Fate is a tide, but virtue is the rudder. Let the storms come. Let the sky break open. A ship with no captain will shatter, but a ship guided by virtue, it will cut through oceans. This is the strength they held. Not in muscles, not in gold, not in armies, in self-command. Because if you cannot govern your own mind, you are fit to govern nothing. So ask yourself, can you be calm when insulted? Can you stay still when provoked? Can you choose reason over reaction? These are not minor virtues. They are the foundations of strength. The man who controls his temper is more powerful than the one who conquers cities. The man who keeps his honor while others lose theirs. He walks with the gods, but you must earn it. Every day, every hour, in the small battles no one sees. In the moment when you could lie, but choose truth. When you could rage, but choose silence. When you could quit, but choose one more breath. This is the battlefield of the Stoic, not in glory, but in grit. Not in feeling strong, but in choosing strength when you feel weak. The world does not owe you ease, nor fairness, nor kindness, but you owe the world your virtue. And you owe yourself the kind of life that can meet death with steady eyes. The man who fears death has not yet lived rightly. Because to the Stoic, death is not the enemy, cowardice is, waste is, living half alive is. So look at your days. What are you trading your life for? Scrolls and scrolling. Fame that vanishes with the wind. Comfort that decays the will. Pleasure that leaves you hollow. You were born for something harder and greater. born to carry weight, born to choose virtue even when vice is easier, born to build inner cities while outer kingdoms fall. The ancients understood this. If you build strength within, you can walk through any fire and still carry light. But if you build nothing inside, you will collapse under even the lightest burden. So do not waste another day chasing things that vanish like mist. Build the only thing that lasts, character. And let your silence speak louder than their noise. Some battles leave scars on the skin, but the deepest battles, they leave no mark, because they happen inside, in silence, without witnesses, without fanfare. They are the wars between who you are and who you must become, between the voice that says stop and the one that whispers, endure. This is where true power lives, not in what you show the world, but in what you conquer alone. The man who has never faced himself will always blame the world. But the man who has looked into the abyss within and did not flinch, he walks with quiet strength. The Stoics knew, you are not a leaf tossed by winds. You are not a puppet of emotion. You are not a prisoner of fate. You are the fire. You are the forge. You are the blacksmith of your own soul. So stop waiting for peace to find you. It will not. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of discipline in the midst of chaos. It is knowing that storms will come, but they will not shake you. That pain will arrive, but it will not define you. That loss is certain, but it will not break you. Every day, the world offers you a deal. Comfort in exchange for your strength. Approval in exchange for your truth. Ease in exchange for your purpose. Say no. Let them laugh. Let them doubt you. Let them say you're too cold, too rigid, too silent. They do not understand what it takes to build a life that cannot be stolen. They do not understand that joy without virtue is a sugar high before the crash. They do not understand that freedom without discipline is the worst kind of slavery. So walk your road. Let it be narrow. Let it be lonely. Let it hurt. That pain is your teacher. That silence is your mentor. That difficulty, it is the gymnasium of the soul. You were not made for ease. You were made to carry the fire. And the fire must be tended, fed with action, guarded by reason, sharpened by hardship. The fire must not be hidden, but neither should it be flaunted. It is yours to carry, yours to protect, yours to offer, not to those who praise you, but to those who suffer quietly beside you, because the Stoic walks not for applause. He walks for truth. And when the world collapses, he remains standing, not because he feels no fear, but because fear does not govern his legs, not because he avoids grief, but because grief does not blind his eyes. This is strength, not the roar of ego, but the silence of a soul that has faced its darkest night and did not surrender. So rise, not with fury, but with clarity. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to become the kind of man who cannot be seduced by lesser things. No, one will give this to you. It must be earned, through discipline, through endurance, through choosing the harder path, again and again, until it becomes the only road you trust. There is no arrival, only alignment. Each day a new test. Each hour a new choice. And in those choices you become what even time cannot touch. Endurance is not a virtue they teach anymore. Not in schools, not in headlines, not in a world obsessed with shortcuts. But endurance, it is the root of all strength. To persist when it would be easier to collapse. To move forward when stillness tempts. to choose what is right again and again, even when it brings no reward but the shaping of your soul. That is power. You were told that greatness is a moment, a podium, a spotlight. But that was a lie. Greatness is repetition. Greatness is grit. It is the quiet refusal to be less than what you could be. It is choosing virtue when no one claps for it. It is doing the work when no one watches. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but it was his private discipline that made him immortal. Seneca shaped senators, but it was his control over time that carved his legacy in marble. Epictetus was a slave, but he ruled himself, and that made him freer than the kings who bought him. You think your life is small, that you are not shaping history, but every thought you allow, every impulse you resist, every habit you either feed or starve, those are the bricks of legacy. And one day someone will stand in the shadow of your choices. So choose well. You do not need a crown to be a king. You only need a mind that bows to virtue and a heart that does not quit. And quitting, it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. It's in the tiny compromises, the small lies, the casual betrayals of your own potential. Catch them. Root them out. A tree does not fall from one axe swing. It dies from termites. Quiet, hidden, slow. So guard your soul like a fortress. Do not let laziness sneak in wearing the mask of rest. Do not let cowardice hide behind just being realistic. Do not let fear disguise itself as caution. Face yourself, without mercy, without drama, with only one question. Does this make me stronger or softer? Because the body adapts, and so does the soul. You are either becoming iron or you are rusting. There is no middle. Endurance is not suffering in silence. It is suffering with direction. It is turning pain into process, and process into purpose. And if you hold that line, if you carry the weight without bitterness, without complaint, you become unstoppable. The ancients had no therapy, no motivation videos, no praise for just showing up. They had will and reason, and the sacred understanding that the soul is forged in resistance. Today we avoid discomfort as if it were poison, but discomfort is the path. It's where illusions die and truth is born. So choose the hard road. Not because you love suffering, but because you love who it makes you become. Choose the honest road. Not because it is easy, but because it is clean. Choose the disciplined life. Not because the undisciplined is tempting, but because it is hollow. And when you fall, because you will, rise not with guilt, but with greater clarity. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your teacher, but only if you listen. The Stoics did not seek comfort. They sought clarity. And clarity comes when you remove the noise, the excuses, the lies you've told yourself for so long you've forgotten they were lies. Strip it all down. Return to the foundation. What matters? What remains when all else is gone? Your mind, your will, your character. Guard it, sharpen it, feed it with action, not words. You will not always be inspired, but you can always be disciplined. And discipline, done daily, becomes fate. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to be defined by it. The world will break you again and again, not always with disaster, sometimes with comfort, sometimes with silence, with the slow erosion of your standards until you forget what you once stood for. That is the subtler death, the decay of the soul, and the world applauds it, because soft men are easy to manipulate, but you were not made to be soft. You were made to carry steel inside your chest, not for war, but for clarity, for reason, for standing still in a world that kneels. Your ancestors did not survive famine, plague, cold, fire, war, so you could drown in dopamine and cowardice. They endured, and because of that you exist. Now ask yourself, will you honor their pain with purpose, or waste their sacrifice in comfort? You were given a life. That is your test. Not to avoid hardship, but to rise through it. And rising is not glamorous. It is not cinematic. It is crawling forward when your legs are shaking. It is smiling with cracked lips. It is standing guard over your soul while the world tempts you with everything that empties it. They will call you cold. Let them, because warmth without principle is just decay with a smile. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be worthy. Worthy of the breath in your lungs. Worthy of the time you've been granted. And you prove that not with dreams, but with discipline. You show it in how you rise from failure. How you treat others when no one watches. How you think when the world is asleep. The Stoic does not wait for motivation. He acts. He does not negotiate with weakness. He disciplines it. He does not seek to be admired. He seeks to be aligned with truth, with virtue, with what is eternal. And that alignment, it is paid for in sweat, in patience, in the little decisions that no one ever sees, but that shape the man you become. You are not what you post. You are not what you say. You are what you do. You are what you repeat. You are what you choose when no one will ever know. So choose well. You will not always win, but you can always be worthy of the fight. You will not always feel strong, but you can always act with courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite it. It is moving forward when your stomach knots, when your heart pounds, when everything says stop, but you go anyway. That is the moment. That is where the mask falls and the real man emerges. Do not fear failure. Fear stagnation. Do not fear pain. Fear the person you become without it. For it is pain rightly endured, and that chisels the cowardice from your bones and leaves only discipline, only presence, only what cannot be bought. You think the reward is at the end. It is not. The reward is the path, the daily pressure, the cold wind against your face, the silence you keep instead of complaining. That is the reward, because that is where transformation lives, not in comfort, but in fire. So walk through the fire, not with pride, but with purpose. And when you look back, you will not see ease. You will not see praise. You will see a trail of ashes. And from those ashes, you will know you built something eternal. There is a silence that does not come from fear nor from surrender. It is the silence of a man who no longer seeks to prove himself, who has found something steadier than applause, something stronger than praise. It is the silence of self-command. That rare stillness that turns chaos into order, not by force, but by presence. The world today screams for attention. It equates noise with truth, reaction with relevance, anger with power. But power, true power, needs no audience. It moves quietly. It watches patiently. It speaks only when words are necessary. This is what the Stoics knew, that the loudest man in the room is often the weakest, because he has not yet tamed his own need to be seen, to be right, to be adored. But the one who has mastered himself no longer chases that. He is no longer tossed by emotion, nor baited by provocation. He does not rise to every insult. He does not fall to every praise. He remains like a fortress in the wind, and that is the kind of man the world cannot manipulate. So learn to hold silence, not as retreat, but as readiness. Learn to pause, not from hesitation, but from awareness. Because every reaction is a choice. Every word is a declaration of who you are. And every decision either builds the man you claim to be, or destroys him. The modern world worships expression. But expression without discipline is chaos dressed as freedom. Not everything felt must be said. Not everything said must be believed. Not everything believed must be acted upon. Master that, and you master your life. The ancients trained in logic, in ethics, in self-observation, not to become dull but to become unshakable, to be the one who, in a room of fire, breathes like it's morning air, to be the one who, when the world panics, tightens his belt and moves forward. Because fear spreads faster than truth, emotion spreads faster than reason, but neither can infect the man who governs himself. So do not be loud, be clear, do not be furious, be just. Do not be desperate, be deliberate. The storm may howl, let it. Your duty is not to silence the world. Your duty is to silence the war within, so that you can move through the world with clean hands and an untroubled heart. And that is not passivity. That is power, restrained. It is choosing your moments with the precision of a general. It is letting fools exhaust themselves while you remain composed, because when the dust settles, they will look to you, not for charisma, but for clarity. Not for excitement, but for direction. That is the reward of stillness. It makes you a mirror. It makes you a compass. It makes you the quiet voice that does not need to shout because its words are forged in truth. So train yourself in silence. Walk alone if you must. Bury your ego so that your discipline can rise. Let others rush. Let them panic. Let them boast. You will walk slowly with clean steps, knowing that speed without direction is how men destroy themselves. And when your time comes to act, you will act not with hope, not with fear, but with resolve. Because the man who commands himself is already victorious. Your mind is the only kingdom you will ever truly rule. If it is undisciplined, you are a slave, even if you wear a crown. But if it is ordered, clear, anchored, you are free, even in chains. This is the battlefield the Stoics trained for. Not out there, in here, not to outthink the world, but to outlast it. The world offers you temptations, ease, fury, status, distraction, and each one is a siege on the walls of your mind. Each unchecked emotion is a crack in the stone. Each indulgence a torch inside the gates. So you must become a guard, a builder, a sovereign over your own thoughts. Not with cruelty, with clarity. Thoughts will rise. Let them. But do not serve them blindly. Question them. Cross-examine them. Ask, is this true? Is this useful? Is this making me weaker or wiser? Because not every thought deserves your belief. Not every emotion deserves your obedience. You were given reason, not as decoration, but as defense. You were given awareness, not to observe the world alone, but to govern yourself within it. To the Stoic, the greatest conquest is not of land, nor people, but of self. Because only once you rule yourself can you meet fate without begging it to be kinder. Only once you've trained your mind can you walk into fire without being consumed. This is why the ancients woke before dawn. Why they rehearsed loss. Why they visualized hardship not as masochism, but as mental armor. They knew, a man who prepares in peace bleeds less in war. You think you'll act bravely when the moment comes. Then practice now, in the quiet, in the unnoticed hours, in every small choice that no one else sees. Because discipline is not born in battle. It is revealed by it, and by then it's too late to improvise. So start where you are, right now. Guard your mind like a fortress. Choose what enters. Deny what poisons. Sharpen what strengthens. When anger knocks, pause. When fear rises, breathe. When impulse claws at you, delay. That space, that brief space between stimulus and response, that is your kingdom. Expand it, build it, live in it, and from there, make your choices. Because the man who chooses deliberately lives deliberately. He doesn't drift. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't excuse himself in weakness. He acts with intention, with virtue, with the kind of inner strength that cannot be seen, but is always felt, even by his enemies. Especially by his enemies. The mind is your weapon, but only if you train it. Left unguarded, it becomes your captor. So start small. One breath, one habit, one clear thought in a day full of noise, and soon, your mind will no longer be a battlefield, it will be a stronghold, unshaken by chaos, unmoved by flattery, untouched by fear. Because when the mind is mastered, no one owns you. Not fortune, not failure, not even fate. You came into this world with nothing, not a name, not a title, not a single possession. You entered naked, and you will leave the same way. Everything in between is on loan. Your body, your youth, your health, your relationships, even your memories, are leaves on the wind. You do not own them. You pass through them, and one day they will pass through you like breath through a flame. This is not cause for despair. This is freedom. Because once you accept that nothing is truly yours, you become invincible. They can take the job, the house, the money, the future you hoped for, even the people you love, but they cannot take your virtue unless you give it away. And yet most people trade it for far less than it's worth. They surrender integrity for convenience, sacrifice discipline for ease, abandon honesty for applause that will vanish tomorrow. They betray who they are just to belong to a world that doesn't even know what it stands for. But you must remember what cannot be taken. Your courage, your patience, your restraint, your commitment to truth when lies are cheaper. These are not traits. They are anchors. They are weapons. They are what remain when everything else falls away. To the Stoic, loss is inevitable, but disgrace is a choice. You cannot stop the waves, but you can remain unsoaked. You cannot stop time, but you can stop wasting it. You cannot choose what happens, but you can choose how to meet it. As a coward or as a student, because life is not against you. It is shaping you. Every pain, every betrayal, every collapse. It is a chisel, and you are the marble. But only if you cooperate. Only if you stop resisting the sculptor and begin to shape yourself. The man who curses fate has already lost. But the man who stands upright, even with bleeding feet, even while everything he loves burns, he becomes something more than a man. He becomes a standard, a symbol, a living monument to the will. And that cannot be bought. That cannot be inherited. That must be earned. Earn it. In the morning when you don't feel like rising. Earn it. In the moment you could lie and no one would know. Earn it. When your heart wants revenge but your mind remembers justice. Earn it. In the smallest acts that make no headlines, but shape empires of the soul. You will not always feel virtuous, but you can always act with virtue. And over time, your actions will train your heart. Because the Stoic doesn't wait to feel right. He does what is right until it becomes who he is. Do not ask, "What should I do?" Ask, "What would the man I admire do?" Then become him, brick by brick, day by day, until the mirror no longer shows a stranger but a soldier of principle. And even if the world never notices, even if your name is never remembered, your soul will know. And that is enough, because the soul, unlike the body, remembers. And when death comes, as it will, you will not beg for one more day. You will not plead for more time. You will look back and nod once, like a warrior laying down his shield, not in regret, but in completion. You will have lived, not perfectly, but deliberately, and that is all the gods ever asked of you. Look around, everything you see is already slipping away. The buildings, the people, the future you imagined, even the air in your lungs. It is not yours. You borrow it, and one day, you will give it back. This is not poetry. This is math. This is certainty. Every second you are alive is a second closer to your end. Every heartbeat is one less remaining. And still, we act as if we're immortal. We spend our days like we own them. We waste our nights like we'll get them again. We chase things that won't matter when the end comes, and ignore the things that will. What will matter when it's over? Not your possessions, not your followers, not your victories. Only this. Did you live with virtue? Did you do what was right when it cost you? Did you speak the truth when silence was easier? Did you remain disciplined when no one was watching? Did you face death without shame? The ancients kept death close. Memento mori. Remember you must die, not as a curse, but as a compass. A reminder that the clock is always bleeding, and every choice you make is a trade of what is passing for what might last. Trade wisely. You will never get this moment again. This pain, this joy, this test. Each one is once. Each one is final. And that is what makes them sacred. You think you'll become the man you admire later. When it's convenient, when the pressure lifts, when things make sense. But there is no later. There is only now. Now, when you feel weak. Now, when the weight is heavy. Now, when the voice in your head says, "Just give in." That is the moment. That is where character is forged. Not in triumph, in struggle, in silence, in the decision no one else will ever see, but you'll carry for life, because you can fool the world, but not yourself. You know when you betrayed your best. You know when you chose the easy road, and you know what it cost. Forgive it, but do not repeat it. Make yourself into something even death must respect. That's what the Stoics lived for. Not eternity, but honor. Not legacy, but virtue. Not applause, but inner stillness. So sharpen your discipline. Polish your thoughts. Guard your actions like a sword you must answer for. Speak with precision. Move with purpose. Live with clarity. And if you fall, fall with dignity. Fall with your values intact. Fall with the kind of silence that echoes louder than screams, because the final test will come, and it will come without warning. One breath, and the world will go quiet. No more time to prepare. No more time to fix what you ignored. Only what you've built within will remain, so build now. Not tomorrow. Not when life slows down. Not when you're inspired. Now. While your hands still move. While your eyes still open. While your heart still pounds inside your chest like the war drum it was always meant to be. Let that sound guide you. Let it remind you, you were born to carry the fire. To walk through ruin with your back straight. To love deeply, lose without bitterness, fight without hate, and die without fear. so that when your last breath comes, you can meet it not as a victim, but as a soldier, not as a child, but as a man, not with regret, but with one clear truth on your lips: I lived. This is the hour where illusions die, not with noise, not with drama, but with quiet truth. You are not who you pretend to be, not your name, not your role, not the image you curated for a world that does not care. You are what you do when there is no one to impress. You are what you say when lying would be easier. You are how you hold the line when no one will ever see it. All else is costume. And all costumes burn in the fire of time. This is the hour of reckoning, not with the world, but with yourself. Because you have seen what happens when a man loses command of his soul. He becomes soft in comfort, violent in weakness, bitter in love, cowardly in silence. He becomes the very thing he once vowed to resist. And it happens slowly, not with betrayal, but with permission. The slow erosion of standards in the name of being realistic. The quiet acceptance of vices wrapped in the language of self-care. But you know better. You know there is a voice inside that does not speak in pleasure but in presence, not in indulgence but in duty. The Stoic lives by that voice, even when it costs him, especially when it costs him, because he knows. Every compromise carves away his edge. Every delay dulls his sword. Every excuse builds the habit of surrender. And soon, what was once a man becomes only a shadow of what could have been. So rise, not as punishment, but as liberation. Wake before the world. Write your thoughts. Command your mind before it is invaded. Because if you don't rule your morning, the world will rule your day. And the world does not care if you waste your life. It profits from it. It will sell you dopamine and call it peace. It will offer you attention and call it love. It will feed you comfort and call it freedom. But you will not be bought. Because you remember the truth. What is easy is seldom good, and what is good is seldom easy. The Stoic does not chase ease. He builds strength. He does not wait for motivation. He trains discipline. He does not ask for a lighter burden. He builds a stronger back. This is the summit, where the air is thin, where the road narrows, where few arrive because most chose warmth over will. But you came here for war. The war within, the only one that matters. And now, you must make your final stand, not against enemies, but against your former self. The part of you that craves applause, that begs for comfort, that longs to be liked more than it longs to be true. Kill it. Not with hate, with truth. Look it in the eyes and say, you are no longer in command. Let the higher voice rise. The one that says, I will hold the line. I will protect the virtue I've earned. I will carry the fire even if I burn. Because this is what you were made for. Not survival, but meaning. Not comfort, but clarity. Not fear, but freedom. And freedom is not the absence of pressure. It is the presence of self-command under pressure. So carry your scars. Let them be proof that you walked through hell and did not kneel. Carry your pain. Let it remind you of how deeply you can feel without losing form. Carry your silence. Let it speak louder than the empty noise around you, and carry your principles. Not as decoration, but as shield and sword. You are not finished, but you are formed. The man who entered this road is no longer here. What remains is what cannot be shaken. what cannot be sold, what cannot be bent by the winds of time, a will forged in silence, a spirit tempered in fire, a life lived not for praise, but for purpose. The end is not a place, it's not a moment. It is a return to stillness, to silence, to the earth, and to the truth you carried all along, buried under noise, doubt, and time. You came here alone. You leave alone. But what you carry out is not what you held in your hands. It's what you forged inside your soul. You spent a lifetime walking uphill, not for glory, not for ease, but because the climb was the only honest way to live. No shortcuts, no apologies, no masks. And now at the top you do not shout. You sit, you look out, you breathe. And for the first time you are no longer striving. You are becoming part of what always was, becoming wind, becoming dust, becoming memory and meaning. This is not death. This is dissolving, a shedding of effort, of ego, of urgency. You do not run from it. You welcome it, because you have nothing to fear. You left nothing undone. You did not chase comfort. You built character. You did not demand peace, you earned inner quiet. You did not beg for more time. You honored what you had. That is the real victory. Not how long you lived, not how high you climbed, but how deeply you saw, and you saw the truth. That we are not here to be remembered. We are here to remember what matters. Not luxury, but virtue. Not followers, but philosophy. Not permanence, but presence, and presence. You mastered it. You did not drown in distraction. You learned to sit still, to be where your feet were. To let the moment pierce you without needing to escape. That was your rebellion. To remain awake in a world addicted to sedation. You became ungovernable, not by noise, not by flattery, not even by fear, because you understood. Death is not the enemy. Disgrace is, and to die without becoming the man you were meant to be. That is the only failure. But you did become him. You did hold the line. You did walk the hard path. You did look inward when the world screamed outward, and that made you unshakable. You did not avoid emotion. You integrated it, felt it, then acted on reason. You did not silence pain. You learned from it. You made pain your teacher, not your master. And in doing so, you transcended the body. You became something time cannot erase. A compass, a code, a calm. You became a man of substance in an age of surface. And for that, the world may never understand you, but the world will feel your absence, because your presence was never loud, but it was complete. You walked with intention, spoke with care, fought with honor, lost with dignity, loved with discipline, lived with restraint. And now, as the light dims, you are not diminished. You are returning to source, the same way stars collapse into silence, not with a scream but with gravity. This was not the story of a perfect man, but of a real one. One who fell, but stood again. One who wept, but never let sorrow rot him. One who knew he was temporary, but lived as if every moment was eternal, because it is, not in length, but in weight. And you carried yours well. You carried the burden of truth without bitterness. You carried the fire without arrogance. You carried the scars not as decoration, but as evidence. You wore your wounds like medals, not because you wanted them, but because you earned them, through pain, through choice, through walking alone, when the crowd begged you to follow. And now there is nothing left to prove, nothing left to fix, Nothing left to chase, only silence. And the question, what remains of a man once he no longer breathes? The answer, if he lived rightly, is everything. His presence in the memory of those he touched, his virtue in the hearts of those who watched, his words etched not in stone but in the actions of others who took the fire and carried it forward. Because that is how the flame survives. Not in noise, not in fame, but in legacy, not the kind written in books, but in character passed hand to hand, man to man, in silence, without needing a name. So close your eyes now. Let go of the grip. Let go of the fear. Let go of the weight. You carried it long enough. You fought well. You stood true. You did not kneel. And even if the world forgets your name, you leave behind something more permanent, a way of being. Let that be your epitaph. He lived aligned. He lived awake. He lived without needing more than what he could carry inside. And now the fire goes out, not in defeat, but in peace. You return to silence, the same silence you honored all your life. And it welcomes you not as a stranger, but as a son coming home.